Hello, I'm Mike Sheahan. If Chris Judd isn't the best player in the AFL, he's top 2 or 3. Has been for 5 or 6 years. Yet the inspirational Carlton captain, hero to the Blue Army, is a vastly different personality off the field. He admits even he sometimes wonders whether he's a nerd. We had a fascinating chat for this edition of Open Mic. Sit back and enjoy.
Judd, the 2004 Brownlow medalist.
Here comes the champ. Got a prize fighter, isn't he?
Thanks for joining us on Fox Sports, Chris.
Thank you.
You're a huge figure on the football landscape, yet it doesn't seem to sit comfortably with you. Is that a fair comment?
Oh, probably the attention doesn't sit comfortably. You know, I really enjoy playing football and training and playing with the teammates and stuff. But probably the, I guess the other side of it, or yeah, maybe it doesn't sit as comfortably with me as some other players.
What's the biggest single attraction of football to you?
Competing, definitely competing. Yeah.
You mean that body-on-body stuff, winning possessions?
The whole lot, just trying to win a game of football and trying to win your position.
Do you like footy in the broad sense? I know you love playing and the competitive element, but do you like the game and all that goes with it?
I probably don't love it. No, I mean, I love running out on the field with, 21 other blokes. Even more than that, I probably really love the feeling after a win in the change rooms when you can just sit down and relax and with the coaches and the people that work with the club. So look, I really love that part of it. There's other parts of it which don't interest me as much.
Do you get nervous?
Yeah, my nerves have been funny. Not funny, ha. Like when I started my career at West Coast, very nervous. And then probably in that period, that 2-year period where, 05, 06, the nerves really almost non-existent. You rock up to the ground, you knew you were probably going to win. You're confident you're going to contribute. So there's a nice period of 2 years there where there was barely any nerves at all. And then since I've been at Carlton, the nerves have been as big as ever. So it's funny how they undulate. I spoke to Robert Harvey about it. He said when he started his career, he got really nervous. Then in the middle, he didn't get nervous. And then at the end, he got really nervous again. So hopefully it's not a sign I'm too close to the end yet.
Well, he's played 10 seasons longer than you, so you've got a bit left up your sleeve.
Yeah, it's that difference. It's that period in footy when you're living versus surviving. Most of the sides and most players are surviving week to week, and there's a few players and teams that are really living. And I think when you're in that bracket or in that mindset, probably the nerves are a lot less.
You've won a Brownlow, you've won a Norm Smith, you've won best and fairest at 2 clubs. Is there one game in your mind that was clearly better than anything else you've done on the footy field? Sort
of the game that stands out, and it hasn't been my best game, probably stands out to me more, and other people probably mention it quite a lot as well, is in my second year when we played Brisbane up at the Gabba, and kicked 5 snags. That's a game that stands out for me, but it wasn't my best game I've ever played.
Couldn't hang on. Guess who?
Couldn't do it again,
Judd.
could he?
Could he do it again? 5.5, I think so. I think so.
Should you have won 2 Norm Smiths?
No, I mean, I was having a pretty good game in 06, and then I think halfway through the third, popped my shoulder, and I barely touched it after that. So I couldn't have got. Well, I certainly didn't expect a Norm Smith for that game.
You dabbled with a newspaper column but walked away, and there are no regular spots now in papers or on radio and TV. Why? Yeah,
it's a choice. I think it just comes down to your personality. If you're an extrovert, you generally get energised by being around lots of people or being on TV and things like that. And if you're more introverted, like myself...
You're an introvert, are you?
Yeah.
Hey? Would your family agree with that?
Yeah, it's a funny one. I mean, when people think of introverts, they generally think of people sitting by themselves in the corner.
Yeah,
I'm not like that. But we did all our personality tests at the West Coast, and I was an introvert, so was Woosha. you know, so are a lot of the people. But yeah, it's generally the extroverts that enjoy, you know, the media and the spotlight more. And you know, I guess I don't fit into that category.
Why don't you read the papers?
I still keep abreast of most things that happen. Well, Beck reads them. Mm-hmm. So Beck reads the Herald Sun. She began talking too much about football after reading the paper, so it became like I was reading the paper itself, which was sort of defeating the purpose of not reading them. So we've addressed that issue going forward.
I don't want to hear that news. When you were growing up, though, were you like in a normal kid in the sense of wanting to watch footy on telly and read about it in the papers, or were you different to that?
Pretty normal, but it was never... Actually, I probably was different to that. Like when I was a kid, I just used to love skateboarding. Yeah. You know what I mean? Up until about the age of 15 or 16. And then that sort of conflicted with footy, so then I dropped that off. But yeah, no, you're probably right. I can't even remember reading a heap about footy growing up. And I'd go to, I don't know, maybe four or five games of AFL footy a year with my dad. But yeah, we never went every week. So... you know, I always loved playing it, but we'd go to the VFL a bit as well.
When you do come across a paper, do you go to the sports pages or do you go to Confidential and see if you and Beck are in there? You have found your way into the papers up the front section, haven't you?
Nah. I'll tell you what I've been getting into.
That was a serious question.
I'll tell you what I've been getting into a little bit in your paper is I like those, you know, the 9-letter word games. I'm serious, we've been doing it.
Have you?
I feel the Carlton boys are into them.
Yeah. What do you do in your spare time besides building that massive investment portfolio, reading the Fin Review and watching the Bloomberg channel?
Well, parts of that are true. I read the Fin Review most days. Don't read it on match day. Even the day before a match now, I'm starting to wonder if it's the best thing to do. But look, try and live as normal a life as possible. I think it's easy to get caught up with the unreal nature of AFL footy. And, you know, almost think you're bigger than you are. But yeah, look, just try and live a normal life. And
do you ever let your hair down? Do you get hammered? Do you eat a dozen dimmies? Do you get home late? Anything like that?
Well, you know, night after a game is fat food night. So I'll eat, you know, pizza or junk or whatever night after a game. So that's always incredibly exciting. Look, other than that, Beck and I, and we've got some close friends who just live down the road. We've been playing a bit of Taboo of late, which is a board.
Taboo.
It's a board game which is pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
Starting to sound like more and more of a nerd the longer we go on, aren't we?
One of your coaches, was he a former president of an AFL club?
Rod Butters, yes. Rod Butters had
Tell us about Rod Butters.
Mate, Rod Butters was great as a junior footy coach. He had us maybe in under-9s and under-10s, gave all the boys nicknames.
What was yours?
His happy pants around the club.
What was yours?
I was Magic back then. So
for the obvious reason? I mean, was it to do with your football prowess? Or were you sort of like a junior pair of the magician?
No, it's to do with kicking goals from the boundary, I think. So, no, I really enjoyed him as a junior footy coach. Hawthorn
and St Kilda passed you over in the draft, allegedly because of your shoulders. Were they that bad?
Well, I don't know that was why they passed me up. I mean, I could understand being passed up. They drafted Hodgie and Bawley, you know, and they were great junior players, and they've gone on to be great senior players. So, yeah, probably at the time disappointed not to stay in Melbourne, but if I had my time over again, I wouldn't change it for the world.
What's the biggest plus you got out of your experience in Perth?
A premiership. Premiership and some, you know, really, really great friendships, which, you know, I'd hope will last, you know, for the rest of my life.
Were you homesick early?
Yeah. And I missed home the whole way through, really. You know, I loved the footy club and loved playing with those guys, and we had a period there of, you know, real success. And I don't think, you know, looking back, you probably appreciate that even more now than you did then. Just being able to rock up to the ground and know that you were going to sort of win the game of footy. That's sort of a, you know, there's probably two sides in the comp that have that now. That's a pretty rare thing to get.
When you decided to come home, I got the impression that you'd made that decision in your mind a significant period earlier than that. Can you tell us, was there a moment where you sort of said, I'm finishing up at West Coast at the end of 2006?
I think before, when I got drafted, I was always super keen to come back and live in Melbourne. I come from a very close family and have some good friends here, and you know, really love Melbourne. So in my own mind, I was always going to come back. After I signed my last contract, I probably thought it was unlikely that I'd sign another one, or if I signed another one, then I'd stay till after footy, because I was going to come out at 24. If you signed another one, then you're 27, it would hardly seem worth coming back to Melbourne for, you know, a few years of footy. So I sort of went into it with that mindset, without a concrete, this will be it. And then I guess, you know, probably a year out, I thought, yeah, this is pretty likely, this will be it.
So when you went to Whoosh and said, John, I'm going home to Melbourne, what was his response?
It was an awkward one. I mean, before I took on the captaincy, I said to the club, look, it's highly likely I won't be here in 2 years' time. Or was it 2 years' time? Yeah, in 2 years' time. So I wanted to make that really clear, because I didn't want to, particularly, I may have changed the circumstance a little bit, but up until then, you signed on for captain, you were there for life. So I wanted to make that very clear that by doing this, I couldn't commit to that. So I think that would have given them some inclination that this was a possibility. But look, I think they were all still quite surprised when they got that decision. And Whoosh, look, I got along really well with him and loved playing for him. And I was just honest with him. And Whoosh is the most honest bloke in Australia. And I think he appreciated that. And yeah, he just accepted it. He didn't try and talk me out of it. You know, he thanked me for what I'd done for the club. And you know, it was probably about a 15-minute chat, and then, yeah, we went our separate ways.
After the break, Chris tells us why he decided to join the Blues and talks about that notorious red dress. You would have had, when you announced that you were coming home, there would have been 10 Victorian clubs in a queue. You settled on the Blues after listening to representations from 4 Melbourne clubs. Why Carlton?
It was a combination of things. Probably they had a really good young list, which a lot of it was a result of, you know, having so many early picks. They could do the deal. They could manage to get an attractive enough offer up for West Coast to make the trade. And you know, I thought they had really sound management and coaching staff under, you know, Greg Swan and Brett Ratton, and I guess with Dick Pratt's involvement as well, I was confident that the financial viability of the club was going to be such they were going to be able to spend enough money in the footy department to, you know, build a successful club.
Your first year at Carlton, you won the best and fairest, but a lot of observers had the view that you were carrying that chronic groin problem again. How difficult was it in 2008? It
was a pretty challenging year, personally. I guess I had huge expectations from outside of the club. The club was you know, very diligent in not having those same expectations as well, but you know, you can't help but feel those expectations. So it was a challenge. I was doing a heap of stuff outside the club to get my groins right, which was incredibly busy more than anything else. You're sort of doing everything you needed to do at the club and then exploring any sort of avenues outside the club to try and assist the problem.
Did you need to actually literally learn to walk in a different way? Is that true?
Yeah. So, I mean, by the end of 2007, my body was just shot to pieces, and you know, I'd walk with my feet flayed out, and you know, one hip higher than the other. It was a disaster. So there was, you know, huge number of things that needed to be worked on, and it just take an incredibly long time to fix all those things. So yeah, look, 08 was a tough year, but you know, also an exciting one to be settling into a new club and playing with a new group of players. But I guess from a personal level, having a full pre-season under my belt, you know, 09's been a bit of a smoother year.
When Fev is bad, Fev, do you get involved or do you leave that to the coaches?
Look, a bit of both. I get involved a bit, but depending on what the issue is and what it is, sometimes it gets dealt with by Rats and Swanee, and sometimes it gets dealt with by me.
Does he frustrate you?
Look, not really. I mean, Fev's body language is such, it's a bit like Richo. He's, you know, they wear their heart on their sleeve, and you know, as soon as you look at him, you can see what sort of day he's having just by his body language. And I think he gets ridden pretty hard for that. But look, by and large, the main conversations I have with Fev are about his body language being up, because when it is, you know, it gives Mitch Robinson and Chris Sheahan and our young players, you know, it fills them with confidence. I mean, it even fills me with confidence, because I know when his body language is up and he's playing that team role, that our forward line structure is going to work perfectly, and when that happens, we're a very hard side to beat.
You won the Carlton Best and Fairest in 2008. Was Fev stiff? Were you lucky to win the BNF?
Probably. I think one of the things with all individual awards, it gets touched on a lot in the Brownlow, but when you're a midfielder, every week you have the opportunity to play well, because the ball's always going to be in your area for a fair part of the game. When you're a tall forward or a tall back, particularly at the full forward or full back line, there's going to be weeks where you just don't have the opportunity to play well. And then you add onto that the weeks where you don't play well. It becomes pretty hard to win individual awards. So, you know, Fev fits in that category. And look, he had a super year last year and was probably, was probably unlucky, and he'll be more than happy to tell you that if you ask him.
He has told me that. I think he could have written that question. The Brownlow, is that, it's obviously a major, massive award. Everyone knows that. How does it sit with you? I mean, were you really sort of over the moon about that? Or
it was pretty exciting. Was not something I ever had any ambition to win, not something I ever thought I would win. But yeah, when it came up, it was a pretty big deal. I think I was about 20 years of age at the time, so you know, it was my third year of AFL footy, and all of a sudden you had a Charlie around your neck. So it all happened pretty quickly, and yeah, I guess that was the stage where you went from being a footballer to, you know, a real public piece of property. It probably hasn't been the same since.
Well, you were lucky though, because you were with a young lady that night that probably got more attention than you did.
She did, yeah.
Is that it?
I could talk about that. Well, that was probably the first instance I've had of that too, of not just, I mean, that was the real example of in the first 2 or 3 years there was Chris Judd the footballer, and that was sort of it. All of a sudden you win an award like the Brownlow, and you're sort of Chris Judd the footballer and Chris Judd the celebrity, and you know, all of a sudden there's a good-looking brunette with not much material on, and you know, she's part of the cast as well.
And she's still part of the cast, and in fact, how do you react when the boys at Carlton call you Mr. Twiggly?
But to be honest, they assure me this never happens.
Really? Is that a myth, is it? Another myth, is it?
I've heard it being reported, but I'm yet to see it.
Who do you most enjoy playing against?
Yeah, probably Adam Goods is the logical one that springs to mind. We some sort of 3 or 4 games in a row where we played each other and had some really good battles. And I guess those games also coincided in pretty memorable games. So he's a name that springs to mind. I haven't had a lot of one-on-one battles with opposition attacking players, if you like. Generally, they've been sort of, you know, taggers of various description, and you know, after a while, you gain a bit of an affection for the different taggers as well.
You don't mean affection literally there, do you? You know, with Goodsy though, there's another dimension to it, isn't it? If they play a very talented player like he is on you, you've got to be more mindful, do you not, about the damage he can cause going the other way? Yeah,
you do. I mean, if you're just getting tagged with a bloke put on you purely to negate your role, you don't spend much of the game thinking with a defensive mindset. You can almost spend the entire game just worrying about what you're going to do. So when you are playing on someone like Adam Goods, it definitely changes the dynamics a bit.
Who's the hardest tagger? You talked before about you enjoy the challenge of playing on Goodsy. Who's the bloke that you find most difficult to shake?
A lot of it depends on the day. Probably Robert Shirley's got a pretty good record on me. I think he got me early on in my career. then I had a good patch on him, and then he's got me late. So look, he'd be right up there.
So what of the tagger's role frustrates you most?
I guess, you know, one of the most effective things is just not letting your opponent be able to run freely at the ball. So when a tagger's constantly blocking off your run, not letting you get a clear path to the ball, you know, that sort of thing can prevent you from getting your flow in the game.
Do the ball players get enough protection? Have the umpires improved in that area?
Look, some weeks they are, some weeks they aren't. I'm always loath to criticise umpires because by and large they do a really good job, and I actually did it in my junior years, umpiring junior footy, and you know, it is a bloody tough gig. So
What, you lost control, did you?
No, I umpired.
Oh, you umpired, literally?
Yeah, so I used to umpire footy.
Okay, yeah.
When I was a kid.
Yeah.
So I have a certain level of appreciation of what they go through. I'd have the crazed parents on the sideline screaming out at me, and...
So what age were you then?
I was reasonably old, like 16, 17.
Why were you doing that? You were
Just to get some cash.
I'll get some cash, yeah.
Yeah, so it was Sunday afternoon, well, maybe about 15, 16. So I'd play on the Saturday, and then on the Sunday I'd umpire under 11s and under 12s, sort of thing.
Robert Walsh did a story recently in the paper about Judd's duds and showed you carting the Carlton players around with your shoulders bandaged. That story about you going back to Perth in 2008 for your first game against West Coast, tell us how that unfolded.
I had a bit of a discussion, I think it was with Brett Jones, and I was playing with Adam Selwood at the time, and just made a reference to the fact that my shoulders were sore because I'd been carrying them for the past 6 years. But
I know you hate telling this story, I know that.
It comes across incredibly arrogant. It was obviously said in jest at a time when I wasn't awfully happy with Adam Selwood or Brett Jones banging into the back of me.
You once famously said that you didn't see yourself as a role model. Has that changed?
No, I didn't actually say I wasn't a role model. I said footballers shouldn't be viewed as role models. So there's a decent difference.
Explain it to me.
Well, I just think that to blanket any one group of people as... To me, a role model is someone who's slightly better than the average. Okay, that's why you want to be like them. To view one group of people as better than the rest of society just doesn't make any sense.
Weren't you talking about yourself though? Weren't you saying that...
No, I was referring to footballers.
Okay. Do you ever watch a game for pleasure, just strictly for pleasure?
Yeah, definitely. It's something that, for the past few years, I probably found it really hard to do. And this year, I actually made a concerted effort to watch more footy from a professional point of view, because there's a lot of players running around who I didn't know who they were, which is sort of an occupational hazard. So I started watching more footy, and I've really been enjoying it. So it still depends. If we play on a Sunday, I refuse to watch anything beforehand.
Why is that? It's just part of the routine? You don't
Yeah, so there's quite a few little rules.
You superstitious?
Picked up on. Well, I say I'm not superstitious, but then I won't read the fin review on match day. I won't watch games of footy before I've played. I eat the same thing before every game. So, I mean, there's reasons behind I'm doing. I don't tie one shoe up before the other. The reason is I don't want to be thinking about footy before I've played, because there's been instances in the past where you run out there and I've felt like I've played the game in my head before it's happened. So there's some sort of logic behind the superstition.
Tell us about your relationship with Dick Pratt.
Yeah, look, I guess Dick was at the first meeting I ever went to at Carlton, or it was actually at Raheem with Swanee and Rats and the like. And he took an interest in me, like he does with a lot of the Carlton players. But look, he was an incredibly intelligent person, huge business experience, and he was, particularly when I knew him, he was probably at the age of he was really ready to give a lot of that knowledge over to other people. I guess he realised he wasn't going to be around forever, and he had so much knowledge in his brain that he was pretty eager to share that. So, I had a bit to do with him, obviously, through my involvement with Vizzy. And yeah, picked up quite a bit from him.
Was he instrumental in you going to Carlton?
Look, he's instrumental in getting Greg Swan to Carlton. And if Swanee wasn't at Carlton, I don't know if I would be there. I probably still would, but it would have been a harder decision again. So in that sense, yeah, he was incredibly important.
Can you explain your Visi ambassadorial role?
The environment's something I've had a really keen interest in, probably from my pretty early days at West Coast, and obviously Visi are in the business of recycling, and you know, it's a pretty heavy part of their business as well. So it was a logical fit, and you know, obviously Dick's passed, but that you know, that work I do with Visi is still continuing.
You know, there's a level of cynicism out there about this arrangement.
And look, you can't help that. It probably makes for good, you know, makes good reading, I guess. But when I was at West Coast, I was sponsored by Medibank Private, who were a club sponsor. I was sponsored by Puma, who were also a club sponsor. So it's probably not as I don't know. It's just that everything gets scrutinised now, and that's one of the things that has. But certainly, I think Visi are happy with the relationship, and I'm really enjoying working with them and John Murphy, their CEO. It's been a good experience for me.
Tell us about a couple of examples of Chris Judd, the environmentalist. I mean, your car, that's tailored to the environment, is it not?
Yes, it is. It's Hyundai's i30, so that's their clean diesel car. You wouldn't think diesel could be that clean,
No.
But it lasts an incredibly long time, and I guess the less you're using, the cleaner it is. What else? I mean, we do little things. So the electricity we get from you know, green energy. We recycle. Probably have 2 long showers for the environment, but you know, nobody's perfect.
Chris, great chatting. Thanks for your time, and all the best for the rest of the season.
Thanks, Mike. Cheers.
Judd shrugs one tackle. Wrong foot's Clark goes short. Touch of brilliance. Well, you can't coach that. Simply put it down to Chris Judd's parents.